The whir had been using my workshop after hours. I knew because of the radio, my dead father's transistor, the one with yellowed tape holding the cracked corner together. The whir haven't touched in 3 years. It was tuned to smooth FM playing some string arrangement to nobody, and my old man never listened to smooth FM a day in his life. The world tilted sideways. I stood there in my hay-viz, the one so faded it's gone the color of weak tea, in the dark of a Brisbane winter morning, and I looked at that dial the way you look at a door you're sure you locked. The world tilted sideways. It stays on triple M. That's where the old man left it the week before the stroke took him, and some things you just don't move. I turned it back. Told myself the cleaner's kid must have been mucking around, or maybe I'd bumped it myself without noticing, tired as I was. The world tilted. So you tell yourself things like that when you've got 40 minutes before your first job and a coffee that isn't hot enough yet. The world tilted. Tell you about the workshop first, because you need to understand what it meant before I tell you what happened to it. It's not much to look at from the road. Corrugated iron. The roller door that sticks in summer, a sign out front that says Joinery in letters. My wife Melissa helped me choose off a laminate sample 15 years ago. Inside, the world tilted sawdust and machine oil, and on a good day the fresh, cut tang of blackbud or spotted gum. There's a photo taped to the corner of the mirror by the workbench. Me and a mate from Foodie, 17 years old Broncos jerseys, grinning like idiots at some presentation night. That mate is Lachlan Anderson. We've known each other since we were skinny kids getting flogged by bigger blokes on a muddy oval in Ipswich. The world tilted sideways. 3 years ago Lachlan's marriage came apart. I won't go through the whole thing. It's his story, not mine to tell in detail. But by the end of it he'd lost the house. The world lost the primary care of his daughter and lost, near as I could tell, most of his sense that he was worth anything to anybody. The whirred up on my roller door on a Tuesday with a duffel bag and a look on his face I still think about. I didn't hesitate. I gave him a bench, a set of keys, the world tour's pick of the small residential jobs so he could get back on his feet. No rent, no cut of his earnings. Just mate helping mate. Every morning since I've made 2 coffees. The world tilted sideways. He doesn't show till 10. Old habit. You do things like that for someone you've decided is family, whether or not the paperwork says so. So when the radio was on the wrong station, the world tilted sideways. That's the kind of thing you let go for a bloke you've decided is family. The world's the sawdust that should have told me something if I'm honest. Every second Monday, the world be a scatter of fresh shavings near the router table that had nothing to do with anything I'd cut the week before. Different timber sometimes. A paler color than what I usually work with. The whir instead of my usual hardwoods. I noticed it. I filed it under, Lachlan's been getting ahead on something. And I moved on. The world tilted sideways. Because that's what you do when you've built your whole idea of a person around them being basically decent, just doing it tough. Then there was the fuel. The world tilted sideways, for the business accounts started running about $40–50 over what the jobs on the books could explain month after month. I put that down to prices going up. The world tilted sideways. The way everything's gone up. You know how it is. You stop questioning the number because questioning it means asking a question you don't actually want the answer to. The world you to picture the two of us that Thursday, because it's the last ordinary moment I had before things tilted. Lachlan's out the back sanding down a set of drawer fronts for a client in Chermside. The world tootling something tuneless, sleeves pushed up, sawdust in the fine blonde hair on his forearms. I'm up front finishing an invoice. My radio, back on triple M playing low. He calls out, the world, you want a snag from the servo I'm heading past. And I say, yeah, get us one. And it's just a Thursday. 2 blokes in a shed and 25 years of history between them. The phone rings at 2:11. Jack, mate, it's Griffo. Terry Griffiths. I've known him since high school too, runs 4 cafes now across the north side, does all right for himself. Look, though I don't want to be a pain, but we're 3 weeks out from the fit out and I haven't heard a peep. You blokes still right for the Chermside job. The world phone against my ear and I'm already frowning, because I don't have a Chermside commercial job on my books. I do a fair bit of residential, kitchens, built-ins, the world tilted sideways, but a cafe fit out, that's a different scale of thing, and it's not something I'd forget. I quoted, sorry mate, what job's this? There's a pause on the line, the word of pause that tells you the other blokes just realize something's wrong before you have. The cafe fit out. Lachlan's company. We paid the deposit, $7,000 back in, what? The world tilt early last month. He said you two were doing it together. I look up. Through the doorway to the back room I can see Lachlan's shoulders bent over the sander, the world tilted sideways, sawdust drifting in the light from the high window. The radio's still playing triple M. Everything in that workshop looks exactly the way it's looked for 3 years. Say that again, I tell Griffo. Say the bit about the company. The world tilted sideways, he says. That's what's on the invoice? That's not, mate, is that not you too? I don't answer him straight away. I'm doing the maths in my head, except it isn't maths. The world tilted sideways. Ooh, it's more like watching a photograph you've looked at 1,000 times suddenly show you a detail you never noticed was there. The sawdust that wasn't mine. The fuel that didn't add up. The world tilted sideways. Every second Monday tuned to a station I never listened to, because somebody else had been standing at that bench long enough, often enough, to make the shed briefly, quietly theirs. The world tilted sideways. I'll call you back, Griffo. I say, and I hang up before he can ask me anything else because I don't have anything else to give him yet. The world tilted sideways, stand there with the phone still warm in my hand, and I look at my mate of 25 years sanding a drawer front for a job that has nothing to do with me. The world tilted sideways, paid for by $7,000 I never saw a cent of, and I think about the radio. I think about how many Mondays there must have been. I think about the coffee I poured for him that morning. The world tilted sideways, sitting there going cold on the bench beside him, and how I have absolutely no idea, standing in my own workshop, how long any of this has actually been going on. The world tilted sideways. I didn't say any to him that afternoon. I want you to know that about me, because it matters for what comes next. I've never been a bloke who explodes. I let the ute get quiet on the drive home. The world tilted, so I let dinner in with Melissa asking why I was so far away from the table even though I was sitting right at it, and I let one whole night pass without saying a word. The world tilted sideways because I needed to be sure before I said anything I couldn't take back. The rang Griffo first thing the next morning and asked him to send me everything, the invoice, the bank details he'd paid into, the quote itemized with a logo I'd never seen before, and so joinery. The world tilted sideways had clearly paid a design student on Fiverr $20 for $7,000 transferred 6 weeks earlier into an account that wasn't mine, wasn't the business's. The warny thing I had a single thread of visibility over. I printed it. Don't ask me why, force of habit maybe, wanting something solid in my hand before I said the thing out loud. Then I waited for Lachlan to come in. He came in at 9:30 whistling, a servo pie in one hand. The world tilted sideways. You must have seen something in my face because the whistling stopped somewhere around the doorway. You're right, mate. I put the pages on the workbench between us. Didn't say anything. The world tilted sideways, just slid them across the sawdust with 2 fingers, the way you'd slide someone a bill you already know they can't pay. The world tilted side down. I watched his eyes move over it. The invoice, the logo, the account number, and I watched something in his face decide in about a second and a half. The world tilted of himself he was going to be for this conversation. "Okay," he said. "Okay, look, before you say anything, it's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like, Lachlan. You quoted a job under your own name, took a deposit. Never told me, never told Griffo it wasn't through me. I was going to sort it out. When? The war, after he rang me asking why nothing started. He put the pie down on the bench, which somehow made it worse, like he needed both hands free for this. Mate, listen." The world tilted sideways. "The ute's paid off, Melissa's got her job. You're not exactly hurting. I've got Ruby every second weekend in a rental with damp coming through the bathroom ceiling. I needed a start. A proper start, not charity work off your books forever. So you stole from me." "I didn't steal anything off you. I did the work myself on my own time, on my bench, with my router." The world tilted BN. "You registered with my business address because you didn't have one of your own yet." I heard my own voice go flat, and flat is worse than loud if you want to know the truth. The war means I'd already stopped hoping he'd surprise me. "That's not a start, Lachlan. That's using me as a landing pad and not telling me you'd landed." He went quiet for a second. The world tilted sideways. So I actually thought, God help me, that this was the moment he'd just say sorry, say fair enough, say let me make it right. Instead, his jaw set, the world tilted sideways, and something colder came up behind his eyes. "You know what, Jack? You've had 3 years of feeling good about yourself for helping poor broken Lachlan. Coffee every morning, free bench space." The world tilted sideways. "Don't act like you didn't get something out of that too. I didn't do it for a feeling, mate. I did it because you're my—" The world tilted sideways. "Because I'm your what? Charity case? Your little project?" His voice cracked up half an octave, and for one terrible second I couldn't tell if it was rage or something closer to grief. "You've got no idea what the last 3 years have been like for me. None. You've had your whole life stay exactly the same shape it always was. I lost everything. I was owed something." "Owed by who?" The world tilted sideways. He said, and it came out so simply, so certain that it frightened me more than if he'd shouted it, like it was just arithmetic to him. The world to universe kept a ledger, and I happened to be standing closest when the bill came due. I told him I needed the deposit back to Griffo by Friday, and I told him he wasn't using my ABN, my address, the world bench, for anything outside our actual jobs, effective immediately. He didn't say yes. He didn't say no. He picked his pie back up and walked out to the ute and didn't come back that day. The world tilted sideways. My phone had started doing something I didn't like. First it was a message from Barry, a bloke we both went to school with, someone I hadn't heard from in probably 2 years. The world tells her you're giving Lachlan a hard time, bit rough given everything he's been through, no. Then one from Cindy, Melissa's cousin, who I'm fairly sure has met Lachlan a total of twice in her life. The world tilted sideways. Want to check in? Lachlan says you're kicking him out of the workshop after everything. That true? I hadn't kicked anyone out of anything. The word asked for $7,000 back and some honesty going forward. But somewhere between my mouth and the group chats of Ipswich that had turned into something else entirely. Then Harper posted. The world tilted sideways. 28, Lachlan's girlfriend of maybe 4 months, someone I'd met exactly once at a barbecue where she'd talked for 20 minutes about a wellness retreat in Byron Bay. She put up a story. I only saw it because Melissa showed me. Though we're holding the phone out like it was something faintly toxic. A photo of Lachlan looking soulful next to a caption about watching someone get discarded by a so-called mate the second he tried to build something for himself. With a little sad face sticker and though underneath it, a donation link, a GoFundMe, for unexpected legal costs. I stood in my own kitchen reading that with my coffee going cold in my hand. The world tilted sideways, and I felt something I don't feel often. A kind of quiet, focused fury, the sort that doesn't raise your voice, just lowers your patience for anything that isn't the truth. He's telling people I'm suing him, I said to Melissa. Are you? I haven't even talked to a solicitor. The world tilted, her hand flat on my chest, the way she does when she can feel my pulse picking up before I've noticed it myself. Jack. You don't owe the whole footy team an explanation. But that's the thing about a small place like ours. Everybody's connected to everybody by 2 degrees maximum. The world travels faster than a fact ever could, especially a lie with a sad photo attached. Friday came. No $7,000. Instead, Lachlan turned up at the workshop at closing time. The world tilted sideways, and this time he wasn't sheepish. He stood in the doorway with the last of the daylight behind him, and he had the tone of a man who'd spent 3 days convincing himself he was the wrong party. The who told Barry I stole from you. I didn't tell Barry anything. You want to know who I told? Griffo. Because he's the one out of pocket. The world tilted sideways. You're trying to ruin me. You know that. A bloke works his backside off trying to get one thing going for himself, and the second it looks like it might actually work, the world tilted sideways. His best mate decides to torch it. I'm not torching anything, Lachlan. I'm asking for what's mine back. It's not about the money, and you know it. He took a step closer. The was something in his face I hadn't seen before, not in 25 years. Not anger exactly. The more like a man watching his own alibi fall apart in real time and doubling down instead of catching it. You've always needed to be the good one, the one who helps. The one everyone says, oh Jack. The what a bloke, taking in his mate after the divorce. You need me broke so you get to keep being generous. The world tilted sigh of that one land somewhere it shouldn't have been able to reach. Because for half a second, God help me, I wondered if there was a grain of truth buried in it, the way an insult only really lands when it's got one true thread stitched through 10 false ones. Get out of my workshop, I said quiet. I didn't shout it. It's not your workshop, it's ours. The world 3 years into this bench. You've put 3 years into taking my clients under a fake company name. Get out. The world tilted sideways. He didn't move for a long moment. Behind him, through the roller door, I could see Ruby's booster seat in the back of his car, and something in me cracked a little at that. Because whatever he was doing, the world tilted sideways. Wherever he'd gone wrong, there was still a 7-year-old girl somewhere in this who had nothing to do with any of it. That's the part nobody in the group chat was thinking about. The world tilted sideways. That's the part that kept me up that whole weekend, staring at the ceiling next to Melissa, turning something over that I hadn't told a single living soul. The world tilted sideways, because there was a reason I'd let the sawdust slide, and the fuel bills slide, and the radio dial slide for the better part of a year. And it wasn't because I hadn't noticed. The men who run a joinery business for 18 years notice everything about their own workshop. The smell of the wrong timber, the angle of a chair pushed back 2 inches from where they left it. The world tilted all of it. I'd chosen every single time not to say anything. The warden told Melissa why. I certainly hadn't told Lachlan why. And on Sunday night, the world tilted sideways, staring at the ceiling with Harper's fundraiser sitting at $420 raised from people who'd never once asked me my side. The world tilted sideways. I thought about a phone call I'd had almost 3 years earlier, a woman crying on the other end of the line, asking me for something I'd said yes to without a single condition attached. The world tilted sideways, lying there. Whether keeping that promise had made me a good friend or a fool, both felt equally true. Neither one told me what I was supposed to do on Monday morning. The world tilted sideways. Monday I didn't go straight to the workshop. I drove to a weatherboard place in Goodno instead, the kind with a garden gnome missing an ear and a trampoline gone slack in the backyard. The ward I sat in the driveway for a full minute before I knocked. The world tilted sideways. Campbell opened the door in her work uniform, scrubs, a mug of tea in her hand, and she looked at me the way you look at someone you've been half expecting for 3 years. "You'd better come in," she said. "Ruby's at school." We sat at her kitchen table and I told her everything. Griffo, the $7,000, the fake company, Harper's fundraiser, the world tilted, Cindy, and all the rest of it. She didn't look shocked. That was the part that undid me a little. She just wrapped both hands around her mug and nodded slowly, like a doctor confirming a diagnosis she'd already suspected.
"You knew," I said.
"Didn't you? Some part of this." The world tilted out the details. "But I knew he was sliding, Jack. I've known for months. He's not eating properly. He's not seeing Ruby as much as the parenting plan says he should. The world, to every time I bring it up, he's got a story about how it's temporary, how something big's about to turn around for him." She set the mug down. The world tilted sideways. "I rang you 3 years ago and asked you keep an eye on him because I was terrified he wasn't going to make it through that first year on his own. The word never asked you to hand him your business." "I didn't hand him anything. Every time I saw something off, I told myself it wasn't as bad as it looked. Because if it was as bad as it looked, the world tilting him close wasn't helping anymore. It was just delaying whatever's coming." Emily was quiet for a moment. Outside, a lawnmower started up somewhere down the street. The world tilted flat suburban drone that makes everything feel very ordinary and very far away from what we were talking about. The world tilted sideways. "Keep him close," she said. "For 3 years when nobody else would. That's not nothing, Jack. But you're allowed to stop now. You were never the one who was supposed to fix him." The world tilted sideways. "You were just supposed to make sure he had somewhere to stand while he tried to fix himself. If he's using that ground to build somewhere else without telling anyone." The world tilted sideways. "That's not on you." I sat with that for longer than felt comfortable. Then I said the thing I'd actually driven out there to say. "I'm going to pull everything back. The bench, the tools." The world tilted introductions. "All of it. I'm not doing it to punish him. I just can't keep pretending I don't see what I see." The world tilted sideways. She nodded and there was something like relief in it. The particular relief of a person who's been carrying a worry alone and finally gets to set half of it down on someone else's table. "The world, what you need to do," she said. If you see Ruby, let her know her Uncle Jack still thinks she's the best thing to come out of any of this. The whatever happens with her dad." I told her I would. I meant it. I rang Griffo from the driveway before I'd even started the U. The world tilted sideways. Told him the $7,000 wasn't coming from Lackland's account anytime soon, and that I was going to cover it myself, out of my own pocket that week. Not because I owed it. The world tilted sideways because Griffo had done nothing wrong except trust a name on an invoice, and I wasn't going to let a mate of 20 years wear a loss that belonged to someone else. "You don't have to do that." "I know, I'm doing it anyway. It's my ABN that address is linked to, mate, even if it wasn't my hand on the tools." The world tilted sideways was a pause, and then Griffo said quieter, "For what it's worth, I've known you longer than I've known him. The world whose words actually good round here." I sat in that driveway for a while after I hung up, engine off, hands on the wheel, and I didn't need anything else from anybody. The wordn't call a solicitor about Lackland, and I didn't ring Harper to argue with a GoFundMe caption. I changed the lock on the roller door that afternoon. A new one, nothing dramatic. The world tilted sideways, just a Monday errand at the hardware store on the way past. And I texted Lackland a single message, "Your gear's in the shed. Come get it whenever. I'm not doing this with you anymore." The world tilted still want to see Ruby. He didn't reply for 2 days. When he finally came, it was late on a Wednesday, headlights swinging into the driveway just as I was locking up. He got out slowly. The world tilted sideways, and in the porch light he looked older than 39, thinner in the face than I remembered from even a few weeks back. "The world here to fight," he said. "I know. Your stuff stacked by the door." He nodded, started loading the ute, and for a while neither of us said anything. Just the sound of tools going into tubs, the small metal clatter of it filling up the quiet the way it always had. Except this time it was the last time it would. Near the end, the world with a box of chisels in his hands and looked back at me. I told myself you'd be fine either way. That's the truth. The word myself, you had so much you wouldn't even notice what I was taking. I noticed everything, mate. I just didn't want to be the one who ended it. He didn't argue with that. He just nodded. The world tilted sideways like something in him already knew and set the box down in the back of the ute a little more carefully than he needed to. The world tilted sideways. He walked past the old transistor radio one last time, still sitting on its shelf by the workbench, dial locked on triple M, and his hand hovered near the knob just for a second. The world tilted sideways, the way you'd reach for a habit you didn't realize you'd built until the moment you had to let it go. He didn't touch it. He just looked at it, and then he looked at me. The whir wasn't an apology in his face exactly, but there was something closer to one than anything he'd said in the last 2 weeks. Then he got in the ute and drove off. The The world tilted sideways, and Ruby's booster seat went with him, and the workshop was quiet in the particular way a room gets quiet when it's finally telling the truth about how many people are actually in it. The went back a fortnight later on a Monday morning, same time as always, 5:15, the light still gray over the roofs of the street. I let myself in, and the radio was exactly where I'd left it. The whir hit had been every Monday since Wednesday night. Triple M, static, edged the way it's always been, nobody having touched that dial in between. I stood there for a second. The world tilted sideways, coffee in one hand, and I realized I'd made 2 cups again out of habit before I caught myself and tipped the second one down the sink. Then I picked up the plane and I got on with it. The whirny and the radio and the smell of blackbutt, the dial right where it belonged. Papo and Katibi. The Werby still comes by some Sundays. Melissa makes her the same lemonade scones every time and Ruby eats them at the workbench, feet swinging under the stool that used to be Lachlan's, the world tilted Savis catching in the frills of her socks. She doesn't ask about her dad much. Once though she looked up at the radio and asked why it only ever plays the old songs. The world, so I told her that's just the station her grandfather liked, and she nodded like that settled something for her. The worry kids accept the world's arrangements without needing the whole history behind them. I still make 1 coffee most mornings now, not 2. The world tills my hand still reaches for the second mug before I catch it, mid-motion, and put it back in the cupboard. It's not grief. It's more like a muscle that hasn't been told the job's finished. The world tilted sideways. Griffo's Cafe opened in October. He asked me to come to the launch. I stood in the corner with a flat white, watching people walk in and out through a door frame I hadn't built. The world tilts out looked good, clean, solid work. And it had nothing to do with me or Lachlan or $7,000 or any of it. Just a cafe. Just somebody else's fresh start. The world tilt texted me once in November, 3 lines, no punctuation to speak of, saying he'd started doing cabinetry for a bloke out at Red Bank. Proper hours, proper pay. The world tilted stup as anything it wasn't. I sat with the phone in my hand for a good while out in the workshop, radio playing low behind me, and eventually I typed back 2 words. Good on you. The whir I put the phone down on the bench next to the radio and got back to work. The whirl hasn't moved since. Every Monday I walk in before dawn and it's exactly where it should be, static crackling at the edge of the signal the way it always has, though my father's tape still holding that cracked corner together. For a long while that station was just habit. Then for one particular year, the world tilted sideways, the thing that told me someone else had been standing at my bench when I wasn't looking. Now it's mine again. Mine and the old man's. The world tilted sideways. Same was before Lachlan ever walked through that roller door with a duffel bag and a face I couldn't say no to. Most mornings now, the only sound in the shed is Triple M and the plane on timber. Papa. He ma cough.